Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Speak Smart podcast. We've got a fun challenge this time around.
Yeah, definitely fun.
Figuring out how to sound like a native English speaker.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
We've got tons of advice from people who have learned English, and it's all packed into this one podcast episode that we're going to deep dive into today.
We'll pull out all the good stuff.
Yeah. So you can walk away with some really good ways to feel more confident and fluent when you speak.
That's the goal.
Exactly.
Right.
That's what the Speak Smart podcast is all about, right?
Yeah,
Giving you the tools to communicate better,
absolutely.
meet your language goals.
You know what's really important too? You got to touch on the cultural stuff.
Oh, for sure.
Like, understanding those nuances is just as important as grammar.
I completely agree.
Okay, so what really stood out to me in this episode is how much they emphasize pronunciation.
Oh, yeah.
They were saying, like, you can have all these amazing words, but if you're not pronouncing them right, it's like they're locked away in a treasure chest.
It's true. I hadn't thought of it that way before.
Like you're trying to tell a joke,
Right.
but you're mumbling the punchline.
It just doesn't land the same.
It just doesn't work.
Exactly.
The episode even breaks down specific sounds.
Yeah. Oh, the thief.
The fee. Like, how do you even explain that if you've
Nothing.
never heard it before?
It's so weird.
It's putting your tongue in a place it's not used to.
It really is.
But they were saying exaggerated at first,
Really go for it.
like tongue yoga.
Yeah.
I like that. Training your muscles to make those sounds.
It makes sense.
It's like learning a new dance move.
oh, yeah. I can see that.
You have to practice it over and over until
Right.
it feels natural.
Okay. That makes sense.
They also talked about recording yourself.
Which is always a little awkward, I think, but so helpful.
It's like looking in a mirror for your speech.
Totally.
You can hear those subtle differences.
And then you can compare yourself to a native speaker and really fine tune those tricky sounds
It's exactly
where you practice.
the better you get.
And speaking of getting better,
Yeah.
this part about intonation really blew my mind.
Oh, intonation is fascinating.
They compare it to music, which I think is brilliant.
So true.
They say it's like the melody of language.
Yeah.
Imagine a song with no highs and lows.
Boring.
It would be so flat.
You'd fall asleep.
Right.
And you know what else?
Right.
It adds meaning.
Oh, like,
Like how you say something
yeah.
can change the whole meaning.
For sure. Like if you say,
Right.
I'm fine
Right.
in a flat voice,
Totally different.
then if you say it,
Sarcastically,
Yeah.
yeah.
totally different vibe.
Total opposite.
And they said
Yeah.
one of the best ways to learn intonation is to listen to
Like real English.
authentic English. Yeah.
So music,
Music, podcasts, movies.
all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Your ears get a crash course in the rhythm of the language.
I'm all about that.
Speaking of immersing yourself in the language,
Oh, yeah.
they also talked about going beyond textbooks.
This is my favorite part.
Me too. They're basically saying,
Watch TV.
yes, binge watch your favorite shows
It's homework.
for English.
I love it.
But it's not just passively watching.
You're actually training your ear
Exact
to pick up on all those things we talked about.
pronunciation.
Intonation, the whole package.
It's implicit learning.
Ooh, fancy.
That's how we learn naturally,
I get it.
without even realizing it.
When you hear a song a few times, you just start humming it.
Yes. Or like when you start using a new slang word.
It's like your brain is a sponge
It is soaking up all that language.
just through exposure.
Exactly. I love
You're giving your brain the raw material to figure out the patterns.
Okay, that's cool.
So cool.
So we talked about pronunciation
Yeah.
and intonation
Yeah.
and immersion. We have,
What else do they cover?
we got to talk about idioms and slang.
Okay, yeah, those are fun.
They add so much personality to your speech.
But they can be tricky,
Oh, for sure.
especially if you're trying to translate them directly.
They were saying, don't rely on direct translations.
Good advice.
Imagine trying to explain
Breeding cats and dogs.
breeding cats and dogs to someone who's never heard it.
They'd think you were crazy.
They would. Idioms are like,
Little puzzles.
yes,
Cultural puzzles.
they reflect the history,
It's yours.
the unique perspective of native speakers.
It's like you're getting a glimpse into their world,
It's true.
cracking those puzzles.
Yeah.
It's so rewarding.
You feel like you're in the know.
It's like a secret club.
You're not just learning the language,
Right.
you're engaging with the culture.
Exactly. And that cultural understanding is just as important as,
The grammar.
yes, for sounding like a native speaker.
Totally agree.
Okay, so let's talk about a common misconception. Lay it on me.
Speaking fast does not equal fluency.
Ooh, good point.
It's so tempting to think that.
I know.
But they made a great point.
What was it?
Have you ever listened to someone speak so fast that you couldn't understand them?
Oh, yeah.
It's overwhelming.
It's frustrating.
Even if their grammar is perfect,
You just get lost.
they're racing to the finish line.
And we're left behind.
Wondering what just happened. They were saying even native English speakers value clarity
Oh, yeah.
and connection.
Connection is key.
It's like choosing
Ooh, I like analogy.
a delicious, slow-cooked meal
Right.
over a fast food burger.
I'm listening.
You savor the flavors.
You appreciate the craftsmanship.
and you feel more satisfied at the end.
That's a deep dive I can get behind.
Me too.
Slow and steady wins the race.
Every time,
I love it.
it's all about quality over quantity.
Words to live by.
Absolutely. And on that note of slowing down
Yeah.
and savoring the language, the episode talks about some cool stuff,
Like what?
contractions,
Okay.
cultural references,
Huh.
and small talk.
Interesting.
They might seem like small things,
Yeah.
but they make a big difference in how natural you sound.
For sure.
Like native speakers use contractions all the time.
Yeah, it's like second nature to them.
It's the shortcuts we use, like I'm.
Instead of I am.
Yeah, cannot. They make your speech flow better,
And sound less formal.
like taking off a tie after a long day.
Or putting on comfy clothes.
Yeah. It's like you're letting your guard down.
Being yourself.
Exactly. And they said you can practice this on your own.
Oh, cool.
Just read a sentence out loud
Okay.
and try to use contractions naturally.
I could do that.
It's all about getting those sounds to flow together.
Smoothly. Yeah.
Now, let's talk about cultural references.
Okay.
Native speakers use them all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Phrases and jokes,
Mm-hmm.
things from their culture,
Right.
which can be tricky if you're not familiar with the culture.
So you're missing the inside joke.
Exactly. But when you understand them,
It's a game changer.
you can follow conversations better.
Laugh at the jokes. Feel more connected
It's like you have the secret password.
to a whole new world.
And they suggested immersing yourself in English media,
Movies, TV shows.
news programs.
Okay.
Pay attention to how people talk.
What they reference. The jokes they make.
It's like a crash course in pop culture.
Makes sense.
And speaking of cultural nuances,
What about them?
small talk.
Oh, yeah.
It might seem superficial,
Yeah.
but it's really important in English-speaking cultures.
I guess so.
Those casual conversations,
About the weather,
sports,
weekend plans,
all that stuff that helps us connect.
and build rapport.
Right.
It's like the social glue.
Makes things run smoothly.
And they gave some tips for mastering small talk.
Oh, like what?
Learn common expressions
Okay.
instead of, how are you?
Try, how's it going?
I like that.
Or instead of,
What did you do this weekend?
you could say, did you get up to anything fun this weekend?
Much better.
It's more natural.
More engaging.
It's like choosing a colorful outfit.
Instead of a plain one.
You're expressing yourself.
And making a statement.
And they said these small changes can make you sound more native.
Really?
It shows you're paying attention to the nuances.
Like you're one of the club.
Exactly. Okay, so beyond these practical tips, they also talked about some more advanced concepts,
Ooh, get into it.
like the difference between formal and informal language.
That's something I struggle with.
Yeah, knowing when to use which one.
Like,
Good morning, how are you?
versus?
Hey, what's up?
Exactly.
It's about understanding the context
Right.
and adjusting your language.
Formal language is like
Wearing a tuxedo to a gala, and
Yeah.
formal language is like,
jeans and a t-shirt at a barbecue.
exactly. It's all about choosing the right tool for the job.
I like that.
I'm mastering this.
Switching back and forth.
It's a sign of true fluency.
You're a language chameleon.
Blending in seamlessly.
So cool.
And here's a mind-blowing tip.
Hit me with it.
Practice thinking in English.
Whoa. That's next level.
No, right?
Sounds hard.
It can be.
Yeah.
They said it makes a huge difference.
Really?
When you think in your native language and then translate,
Yeah.
it slows you down.
That's true.
But if you can train your brain,
To think in English directly,
it's like removing a bottleneck.
your thoughts just flow.
It might feel weird at first,
Yeah.
but it gets easier.
Like riding a bike.
Exactly. At first you wobble
You need help. You get the hang of it.
and you're off. Freedom. So how do we actually do it?
Yeah. How do we start thinking in English?
They suggested starting small,
Uh-oh.
like narrating your day in English,
In my head.
even just in your head.
Okay. I could try that.
Instead of thinking, I'm making coffee, think I'm brewing a cup of joe.
I like that.
As you get comfortable, you can have full conversations with yourself in English.
Really?
It sounds silly,
It does.
but it's great practice.
Yeah.
It's like giving your inner voice an English accent.
I love that.
And as you practice, you'll speak more fluently.
It's like unlocking a new level.
And they emphasize this is just one part of the journey.
Right.
Language learning is more than just grammar and vocabulary.
It's about the whole experience.
Embracing the challenges, the joy of connecting with a new language and culture.
It's about expanding your horizons.
Exactly. And with that in mind, let's dive into even more tips in the next part.
Welcome back to the Speak Smart podcast. We're in the final stretch of our deep dives into speaking English like a native speaker.
The home stretch.
And we've got even more gems to uncover from this awesome source material.
So much good stuff packed in here.
It's like we've been on a treasure hunt for fluency.
And now we're about to find the X that marks the spot.
Okay, I like where this is going.
We've talked about pronunciation, intonation, cultural references, small talk.
We have covered a lot of ground.
But there's this one fundamental element we haven't fully explored yet.
What is it?
Vocabulary.
Ah, yes. Vocabulary, the building blocks of any language.
And an episode makes such a good point about this.
Like what?
They say build a strong vocabulary. It's essential for expressing yourself.
Clearly and effectively.
But it's not just about memorizing.
Long lists of words.
Yeah.
You have to understand the nuances.
Exactly. And use them in different contexts.
Right. It's like having a spice rack full of amazing flavors.
Ooh, I like this analogy.
You wouldn't just dump them all in at once.
No way.
You'd carefully select them.
Combine them to make the perfect blend.
Create a masterpiece.
And they pointed out that English has all these words with multiple meanings.
Oh, I know. Depending on the context, right?
Exactly. So you can't just learn the dictionary definition. You have to see it in action, out in the wild.
Yeah, in real life.
Yeah. Give me an example.
Ooh. Okay, let me think. Oh. The word run. Like running a race, running a business, running out of time.
See?
Same word.
Totally different meanings.
It all depends on the context.
And then that can be so confusing.
Especially if you're new to the language.
It's like trying to solve a mystery.
With only half the clues.
But the good news is,
Tell me.
the more you hear and read English, the more those nuances will make sense.
You start to see the patterns.
Your brain becomes a detective.
Okay, so how do we actually expand our vocabulary?
Besides carrying a dictionary everywhere,
Exactly.
they had this really fun approach.
Ooh, tell me.
Learn a few new words every day.
Okay.
And then try to use them.
Like a challenge.
A daily vocabulary challenge.
I love that.
It keeps things interesting.
And it helps you remember the words.
Because you're actually using them.
Brilliant.
Oh, and while we're talking about vocabulary, phrasal verbs.
Oh,
I know, right?
those could be tough.
But they're everywhere in English.
Give up, look after, take off.
Exactly.
They don't always make sense.
I know. But they're so common.
And if you can master them.
Your English will sound so natural.
Okay, so how do we tackle these phrasal verbs?
They said to focus on a few at a time.
Like with any new words.
Right. Practice using them in sentences.
Notice them when you're reading or listening.
And you'll start to see the patterns.
It's like unlocking a secret code.
And once you know the code,
you can navigate conversations.
With more confidence.
I like it.
Okay, ready for a mind-blowing concept?
Hit me.
They talked about practicing thinking in English again.
Whoa, we talked about that before.
We did.
It was about removing that translation step.
Right. But now let's get practical.
Okay, how do we actually do it?
One of the easiest ways, narrate your day in English.
In my head?
Yeah, just in your head.
Okay, I can see that.
Instead of thinking, I'm making breakfast, think, I'm whipping up some scrambled eggs and toast.
I'm already feeling more fluent.
And as you get better,
Yeah.
you can have whole conversations with yourself in English.
Really?
Debate ideas.
In my head.
Explore new topics.
That sounds kind of fun, actually.
It is.
It's like giving my inner voice an English makeover.
And the key is to make it fun.
Don't stress about it too much.
Exactly. Play around with the language.
See what happens.
And the more you practice,
The easier it gets.
you'll stop translating in your head.
You'll just think in English.
Naturally.
Wow.
That's the goal.
It's like being bilingual,
Not just in your speech.
but in your mind.
And that's the beauty of language learning.
It transforms you.
You see the world differently.
Wow. We've covered so much in this deep dive.
I know, right? It's been amazing.
It feels like we've been on an adventure.
through the world of English fluency.
And we found all these treasures along the way.
So many valuable tips.
I think the biggest takeaway for me is speaking English like a native is possible.
Absolutely.
But it takes work.
It takes practice.
And a willingness to embrace the journey.
You're not going to be perfect right away.
Mistakes are part of the process.
Yeah, it's how we learn.
And we have to celebrate every step along the way.
Yes. It's about progress, not perfection.
And ultimately,
Yeah.
it's about using our language skills to connect with people,
To build relationships.
to share ideas.
To experience the world in new ways.
So to everyone out there listening,
On your own English learning journeys.
keep exploring
Keep practicing.
and never give up on your dreams.
Well said.
That brings us to the end of our deep dive into speaking English like a native speaker.
We had so much fun exploring this episode with you.
I hope you found it informative.
And maybe even a little bit entertaining.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Speak Smart podcast.
Hit that like button.
And keep practicing your English.
We'll see you next time.
Bye for now.